But another point, if we could look at the turnout, just because we had some people asking last night, how did turnout stack up? We had an overall turnout of around 67% of those who are registered to vote. That's pretty consistent. If we look in 2017, that's about a 2 percentage point drop from 2017, about a 1 percentage point increase from 2015. So overall, the United Kingdom turnout has remained fairly consistent. And when we break it out by region in the bottom of the chart, we see pretty much all the countries, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, are pretty much at about the same rate. It looks like there was a pretty even slope in a decrease since 2017 for England, Wales, Northern Ireland, maybe Northern Ireland a little bit steeper. The only place where we did see an improvement in the vote share from 2017 was actually in Scotland.
So, I mean, take a look at that. I mean, that's the fascinating thing to me is there is I should know this, is voting compulsory in the UK?
No.
It is not. So, you know, two-thirds of the people are eligible to vote, roughly vote every time, and as much as this election was hype, it still didn't even hit the high water mark of 2017. You know, I mean, these things are highly contested, and 1/3 of the people are like, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna go home and play some Xbox. I'm not gonna vote, which I can appreciate that mentality. But the Scotland vote did have their uptick, especially over 2017, and I think that was their big, we're done, we're out, right? I mean, the turnout tells that story. Does anyone disagree with that?
Well, it's a small turnout. It's a small shift in turnout.
Well, small shift in turnout. It's not as big as it was in 15, but I mean, small shift is enough to read into it. I guess.
Sure.
I don't know. Is it not statistically significant? I guess it.
Well, there's no statistical test because it happened.
Right. But I meant in terms of correlation with everything else. I don't know. Probably not. There's probably not enough movement between all the others.
Yeah, and another thing we want to look at going forward is looking at the constituency level turnouts and looking at those numbers. In terms of the overall number, I don't think we want to over extrapolate, well, how did Scotland do in the overall turnout? But I think when we break that out, we may find, and we haven't yet done that because we're still streaming from last night. But the next step, I think, is looking at where we saw surges in turnout relative to 2017 and to see how correlated that is with different flips towards the S&P.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we could have over-extrapolated a little bit. I'd be curious, Drew, what are your thoughts on this turnout stuff?
You know, it's weird as an American looking at it because this is a 6-week process, and obviously there's a run up to it, and people kind of know it's coming. But the campaigns are really incredibly short compared to America, and to see the turnout, that's I don't know. I would have thought it would have been higher, but it certainly was decisive. I don't think anybody can complain about that. And like you said, people knew who they were voting for, and that's going to be the interesting post-mortem, right? Were they just voting against Jeremy Corbyn, or was this the second Brexit referendum and it was decisively decided for the Conservatives? One thing I think it's going to be hard to say, well, it's just Corbyn. Because Corbyn was the leader in 2017 when they picked up seats. And it's, not like there was a bunch that just came out about it. He is who he is. He's a well-known figure. He's been on the scene a long time. I think, obviously, Johnson really sort of captured the moves, like, just get it done. Yeah, it seems like there was a sense of, we have to make a decision here, and it was pretty decisively done.
I'm curious. What do our friends in Canada? I'm sorry. What do our friends in Canada think about all this?
So two things. One, quickly on the Scotland point, I think the turnout increase and the fact that the S&P vote went up 8 points is very good evidence for the argument that, Scott, you're making about they are being fed. Scotland is fed up. They do want to get out, and I mean, you're seeing that from the Scottish government trying to force a referendum through. Basically, right now, they did that this morning. So I think you're right about that, and I think the turnout is part of the evidence, but it's not the only evidence piece. But I mean, Labour lost a bunch of working class seats that they tried to win last time, that they held on to last time, that the Conservatives tried to win last time, and they didn't. Having a born-again Leaver who voted to remain and campaigned for remain, and Theresa May as your leader, wasn't as effective as having a true Brexiteer leading the country. Boris Johnson led the Leave campaign. He's now prime minister of the country. The Tory party won those seats. I think it's that simple.
What's your take, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, again, the turnout was a little lower, not particularly lower. I mean, it was only 2%. I think from 2016 to from 2012 to 2016 in the U.S., there's basically the same turnout. For that kind of turnout for 69 to 67, that's pretty much the same. I mean, again, I suspect that's caused by less Labour voters turning out for Jeremy Corbyn, probably particularly in the North, where a lot of former Labour voters came out to vote for the Conservatives in the North. I suspect some of them just said, I can't bring myself to vote for Boris. I'm just going to stay home. I think that's really where you're seeing the change in turnout. I don't think it's necessarily like I don't think it's necessarily indicative of much other than the fact that just Jeremy Corbyn really didn't appeal to many people. Boris Johnson also, a lot of people hated him, but a lot of people viewed him as a means to get the Brexit deal. I think it's very similar to kind of the U.S. 2016, where a lot of people had very negative opinions of both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.